Make sure you check out our online store where we work with our graphic designer to create stunning garment and product designs that feature a wide variety of aircraft types such as British fighters, World War II aircraft, American bombers, Russian fighters and much more. You can pick your favourite designs and personalise any items within our Redbubble store that range from clothing right the way through to stationery. All of our designs feature our logo so you can show your support for the channel while getting a quality product. You can head to our website aircrewinterview.tv and click store, or go to redbubble.com/people/AC interview. Thank you and enjoy.
How did the J fare in ACM against the FG1 and FGR2?
The J79 engine is better at high level. So if you did air combat, the higher you were, the better the J was. It could actually turn slightly better, but then the FGR2 brought it lower because of momentum and power and everything else, and the FGR2 started to increase. Now that's assuming that you could both pull the same amount of G. The F-4J could pull more G than the FGR2. We used to fly what's called Bravo fit, which is a centerline tank only. FGR2 used Charlie fit, which is 2 Sergeant Fletcher tanks on the wings. Now, off the top of my head, the Sergeant Fletcher could pull 4G when it had any fuel in it, 4.5 when it didn't. The F-4J centerline tank could pull 5 when it had any fuel in it, and 5.5 when it didn't. Clean 6.5 you could do on both just about. Now, I don't know how it worked. When you could fly the British FGR2 in Delta fit, which is 2 Sergeant Fletchers and a centerline. That centerline had 2.5 G when there was fuel in, 3 G empty. It's the same tank. I don't know how we got away with it, but some engineer, I don't know whether he got it from Americans or whatever, gave this 5.5 G limit. It's the same tank, the same mounting, and therefore we flew Bravo fit and we had a G better than an FGR2 at all times.
So how did the crews like the actual jet? Did they think it was better than the FGR2?
The jet was nicer. I'm not saying it was comfier to sit in. The squadron basically made it. The fact it was a Tiger squadron. Initially there were no first tourists on the squadron. Come late 89, 90, we started getting first tourists on it. And therefore everybody was older, more experienced. You didn't have as much training to do because guys knew what they were doing. Good camaraderie because you'd probably met most of the guys before anyway. And it was just good to be on a Tiger squadron. And that sort of helped it. The fact that you could pull more G than anybody else. This was at the time also when the F2, F3 was just coming into service, and that was not very good, mainly because it didn't have a radar that worked. There was a thought when the Falklands War started to send the F-4J out to Saudi Arabia because the J79 is better hot and high. Sorry, not what the Falklands War, the Gulf War. And it would have therefore worked better in hot climates. The unfortunate thing is we just sold the Saudis F3s, and therefore we couldn't send the F-4J politically. It was good for the F3s in that way because a lot of modifications were put in. The radar was sorted, the RHWR was improved and worked. The missile system worked. It maybe hadn't worked quite well earlier on. So it was great for the F3 to go. I suppose it would have been nice taking the F-4Js down to Saudi, but it never happened. We stayed here and defended the realm.
So, did you ever go up against the NATO types like the F-16, F-15s?
You always did ACMI, Air Combat Manoeuvre Instrumentation, at Decimimano in Sardinia. That was before BAE Systems built one in the North Sea. And invariably when you did it in Deci, you had dissimilar air combat training. So yes, I mean, I remember early on I can't remember whether it was the J or FGR2, we took on the Canadian F-104s. Oh. Their idea of combat was to come at you at 1.5 and fly straight through and go away and then come back 2 minutes later at 1.5. Because the F4, well, the F1 and F4 can't turn, let's face it. The F16 was very good. The F15s were okay. I remember going out to Ilson to do a similar thing over there, and they just brought in their AMRAAMs, and their idea was to fire an AMRAAM at 30 miles and turn away, so that they were way outside our range. And then they claimed a kill over the air, and then the whole game was over. And we said, well, hang on, we turned away, because the AMRAAM basically goes into a quiet mode and then wakes itself up after a while, comes back down again and finds you, assuming you've gone in a straight line. You don't go in a straight line. The thing, the Battle of Britain, never fly more than 30 seconds in a straight line, because you get shot. Yeah. And we didn't. And once the F-15 guys had worked this out, that the AMRAAM wasn't the be-all and end-all, we had some good times with them. You had different tactics. It was like flying against Harriers, for instance, when they used to do their VIFing. They used to slow down and just move around like this, and then try and get their nose on you, and to fire that when they had the Sidewinder AIM-9Ls. But you had to then therefore run away from them, because the AIM-9L had a certain range in the stern. And it was just trying to find the tactic to beat them all. The Jaguar wasn't too bad for a while, so the Harrier was okay. F-16s, I mean, you can pull 9 and a bit G, it's going to beat anything, effectively.
So obviously you're holding a Tiger helmet.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about the equipment you have to wear with this?
It was subtly different in as much as it had a single visor, which the Air Force didn't like. It has a different oxygen system. It has a full face mask, which was nice. It was simple to pull off, and it looked cool, basically, and looking. American flying overalls were better than the British ones. I'm not saying the modern British ones now aren't good, but the American ones were pretty good. And you had a big oxygen system. This little connector at the end was a pain in the backside. It has 2 little connectors which actually move, and they should move, but there was the problem, because if you didn't get it right and it wore a bit, it moved. These things were sculpted to your head. So when you arrived on the squadron, you put basically like a sweat bone dome thin mask on. They then poured plaster of Paris effectively over you, and then when it half set, you squeezed your head out of it. Then they filled your headspace with your head in plaster of Paris. That's set, and therefore they had a head for you. Then they fitted this to that head. So this is my helmet. Nobody else could wear it because it wouldn't fit them, and therefore when we changed over to the British helmets, we kept it. It looks quite roomy, but if you had a couple of big earpieces and more padding in, it was snug but good. They only say that for safety's sake, it's got a single visor. British ones now have 2 visors. You have a clear visor down all the time, specifically if you're at low level. But this was just a sun visor. The great thing about it is that if you pulled it down and then you tried to look at the radar, it was a problem because you couldn't. So you had it sort of half down, so you'd look, top half was in sun and looking down at the radar. Nice fit.
Could you tell us about the paint scheme? Did you use this?
Yeah, I actually didn't have it done until after I'd stopped flying, because in the back you're always looking around, looking ahead like this. Therefore, you're always touching the inner of the canopy. So effectively, you didn't have it. This would just get scraped. Some people had it done and then had it done again, and it was done by one of our ops clerks who was into airbrushing. So basically when these finished, you got him to go and do it, and you took it away with you. It's still on show at home. It's quite impressive, really. Yeah, and of course it's got full tiger stripes at the back.